You can see the cracks in the postcard long before you notice the for sale signs piling up on the manicured lawns. It starts with the silence. Neighborhoods that used to echo with the sounds of children playing or neighbors chatting over fences are now eerily quiet, functioning more like hotel districts than communities. It is in the local coffee shop that has cut its hours because the baristas can no longer afford the drive from 2 towns over. You think America's most beautiful, idyllic small towns are immune to the economic rot eating away at the cities? Think again. Because beneath the surface of the stunning mountain vistas and the pristine coastal sunsets, a quiet demographic and economic apocalypse is unfolding. This isn't just about gentrification or high taxes. This is about the complete hollowing out of the community structure that makes a town a town. From insurance premiums that have tripled in 24 months to a service workforce that has been completely priced out of existence, the forces crushing these paradises are the same ones threatening your retirement plan. We are witnessing a structural shift, a meltdown of the American escape dream that has defined success for 50 years. The places we aspired to move to, the safe havens we planned to retire in, are quietly preparing to collapse under their own weight. By the time we reach 2026, the map of viable American small towns will look unrecognizable. The remote work freedom economists promised has turned into a hard reality of isolation and insolvency for towns that simply cannot support their new populations. This video isn't just about real estate, it's about the death of the local spirit. It is about the silent eviction erasing the families who built these places. Stay with us, because understanding this collapse is the first step to avoiding the trap of buying into a dying dream. By the time we reach number 1, you will understand why 2026 marks the end of the golden age of the American small town. Scene, the countdown begins. Number 10, Sedona, Arizona. For decades, Sedona was the spiritual and artistic sanctuary of the American Southwest. Do you remember the feeling? The moment you drove into the valley, you were hit with the awe of the red rocks glowing orange in the sunset, a place that felt ancient and grounded. It was the slow-life capital for retirees, hikers, and healers who wanted to escape the chaos of Phoenix or Los Angeles. It wasn't just a tourist destination, it was a tight-knit community where the local artist could afford a bungalow and the waitress knew your order by heart. But as we look toward 2026, that spiritual calm has turned into one of the housing market's most brutal warning signs. What was once a functioning town is now a hollow shell fighting simply to maintain basic services. The collapse didn't happen overnight, but the acceleration has been terrifying. Sedona has spent the past few years being devoured by the short-term rental industry. In some neighborhoods, nearly half of all homes are no longer homes, they are unstaffed hotels, vacant on Tuesdays and trashed by bachelor parties on Saturdays. The school district is facing a collapse in enrollment, not because people don't want to live there, but because no young family can afford to. We are seeing a massive exodus of the actual workforce. Restaurants are closing sections of their dining rooms not for lack of demand, but because the people who cook the food and wash the dishes have been pushed to towns over an hour away. The traffic jams on Route 179 aren't just annoying, they are the arteries of a town clogging up. The real tragedy is what those empty driveways represent. The community has been replaced by a transient population that has no stake in the town's future. The exact number of permanent residents leaving is data that city officials are scrambling to hide, yet the pattern is unmistakable: the soul of the town is shrinking. As one former teacher who was forced to move in late 2024 noted on a local forum, "I didn't leave Sedona because I stopped loving it, I left because I realized I was living in a theme park, and the theme park creates no community." The nostalgia of the Red Rock escape is being replaced by the cold reality of a ghost town for the rich. Number 9, Cape Coral, Florida. For generations, Cape Coral was sold as the waterfront wonderland. It was the ultimate retirement dream: more canals than Venice, Italy, affordable waterfront property, and a promise of endless sunshine. It represented the Florida bargain: trade the cold winters and high taxes of the north for a boat in your backyard and a lower cost of living. It was the escape hatch for the middle class, a place where a pension went further and life was supposed to be easy. But in 2026, that waterfront dream is sinking under an economic pressure that even the sunshine can't hide. The clearest signs of trouble aren't just the hurricanes, they are in the mailboxes of every resident. Cape Coral is currently ground zero for the Florida insurance meltdown. We are seeing homeowners hit with insurance premiums that have quadrupled in just 3 years, turning a manageable monthly budget into a financial nightmare. This isn't just inflation, this is a systemic risk repricing that is rendering the town uninsurable. At the same time, the inventory of homes for sale is skyrocketing. The for sale signs are sitting on lawns for months, creating a stagnant inventory that threatens to crash property values by double digits. Retirees on fixed incomes, who moved here calculating a 2020 budget, are now drowning in HOA fees and special assessments to cover infrastructure repairs. The math simply stops working. The paradise has become a financial prison for those who bought at the peak. They want to sell, but the buyers are reading the same news about climate risk and insurance insolvency. The canals that were once the town's greatest asset are now its greatest liability. Walking through some of these neighborhoods today feels tense. There is a collective anxiety hanging in the humid air. As a local real estate agent admitted off the record, in 2021, I had bidding wars. Now, I have clients crying in my office because their flood insurance costs more than their mortgage principal. The Florida dream is fading, victim to an economy where safety has become a luxury item that few can afford. Number 8, Gatlinburg, Tennessee. There was a time when Gatlinburg was the gateway to the simple life. Do you remember the energy? It was the kitschy, fun, welcoming heart of the Great Smoky Mountains. Families flocked here for the pancakes, the hiking trails, and the feeling of being in a place that respected hard work and hospitality. For decades, this town was an economic engine for Appalachia, providing steady jobs and a modest, comfortable life for the locals who kept the hotels clean and the attractions running. But by 2026, that welcoming facade is cracking. While Gatlinburg is not empty of tourists, it is suffering from a zombie economy. The lights are on, the rides are running, but the infrastructure is crumbling because there is no one left to maintain it. The town is experiencing a severe labor meltdown. We are witnessing local businesses, some that have been open for 40 years, shutting their doors early or closing permanently because they cannot staff their shifts. The challenge isn't a lack of visitors. Americans still love the Smokies. The problem is the hypergentrification of the mountains. Investors and luxury cabin developers have bid up the land values so high that the workforce, the maids, the cooks, the ticket takers have been pushed so far out into the rural periphery that the commute isn't worth the gas money. Unlike the cities, there is no public transit safety net here. When the cost of housing rises 80% but wages rise 15%, the math results in an exodus. For the visitors, this shift feels frustrating and confusing. They report dirty hotel rooms, 2-hour waits for tables at empty restaurants, and a general sense of decay. But for the locals, it is heartbreaking. They are watching their hometown turn into a playground for the wealthy while they are forced to commute 2 hours just to serve them. As a restaurant manager on the main strip shared, we used to hire high school kids and neighbors. Now, I have to bus people in from 2 counties over, and even they are quitting. The town is eating itself alive. The charm of the mountain retreat is being buried under the weight of an economic disparity that is unsustainable. Number 7, Jackson Hole, Wyoming. There was a time when Jackson Hole was the last true bastion of the American West. Do you remember the spirit of it? It was rugged, wild, and fiercely authentic. A place where ski bums, cowboys, and nature lovers shared the same bar stools at the $1 Million Cowboy Bar. It was aspirational, yes, but it was grounded. The stunning Teton Range wasn't just a backdrop for wealth, it was a playground for a tight-knit community that valued the outdoors over stock portfolios. You could work a lift operator job, live in town, and feel like you owned the world. But welcome to 2026, where Jackson Hole has become the most unequal place in America. The gap between the haves and the have-nots has snapped the community in half. We are witnessing a service class displacement so severe that the town is ceasing to function as a municipality and starting to resemble a private club. The people who keep the town running, teachers, police, nurses, grocery clerks, are living in their cars or commuting over the treacherous Teton Pass from Idaho because the average rent has eclipsed $6,000 a month. The collapse here is driven by income disparity acceleration. Wyoming's tax-friendly laws attracted the global elite, who bought up every inch of buildable land, not for homes, but for compounds. This drove property values into the stratosphere, creating an economic vacuum. By 2026, businesses are failing not because of a lack of money flowing through the town, but because there is literally no human capital left to staff them. The help wanted signs are permanent fixtures, fading in the sun, while private jets line up on the runway like taxis. A local sheriff's deputy, who requested anonymity, revealed the grim reality: I arrest people for trespassing who are actually just workers sleeping in their vans because they have nowhere else to go. We are evicting the very people who make this town function. It's a slow-motion suicide of a community. The cowboy spirit is gone, replaced by a velvet rope that keeps the locals out of their own history. Number 6, Stowe, Vermont. Stowe is the picture-perfect postcard of New England. White church steeples, covered bridges, and rolling green hills that turn into a kaleidoscope of color in the fall. For decades, it was a farming community that happened to have great skiing. It represented a wholesome, grounded way of life where family lineage mattered more than bank account balances. It was the definition of quaint and cozy, a place where the winter silence was peaceful, not emptying. But the charm has become a commodity, and by 2026, the local population is facing a silent eviction. Stowe is suffering from the dark window syndrome. Drive through the residential streets on a Tuesday night in November, and you will see it, house after house, completely dark. These aren't abandoned homes, they are second, third, and fourth homes owned by investors and urbanites who visit for 2 weeks a year. The local vibe is now a carefully curated product sold to tourists, while the actual locals are being crushed. The mechanism of destruction here is amenity migration coupled with a brutal tax reassessment cycle. During the remote work boom, urban buyers flooded Vermont, overbidding on houses sight unseen. This triggered a property tax spike that has priced out multi-generational families who have farmed this land for a century. In 2026, the school enrollment is plummeting because young families cannot compete with corporate investors. The town is becoming a geriatric ward for the wealthy and a theme park for the weekenders, with no middle class in between. A fourth-generation maple syrup producer who sold his land this year confessed, "It breaks my heart. But when the taxes on the farm cost more than what we make in 5 years of syrup production, you don't have a choice. We aren't leaving because we want to, we are being financially exiled from our own home." The white steeple still stands, but the congregation that built it is gone. Number 5, Bozeman, Montana. If you want to see the Yellowstone effect in its most destructive form, look no further than Bozeman. 10 years ago, this was a gritty, authentic college town mixed with a ranching hub. It was affordable, unpretentious, and slightly rough around the edges in the best way possible. It was a place where your neighbors wore Carhartt because they worked in it, not because it was a fashion statement. It was the entry point to the wild, accessible to the average American. But fast forward to 2026, and Bozeman has become a cautionary tale of Zoomtown collapse. The explosion of popularity, fueled by media romanticization and the remote work revolution, has turned the housing market into a meat grinder. We are seeing a tent city crisis in a place where winter temperatures drop to 20 below zero. These aren't traditional homeless populations, these are service workers, students, and construction laborers living in campers on city streets because a one-bedroom apartment now costs more than a mortgage in Seattle. The soul of the town is being paved over. Historic ranches are being carved up into luxury subdivisions at a breakneck pace, straining the water supply and erasing the open space that drew people there in the first place. The Californication of the Rockies has brought with it a cost of living shock that wages in Montana simply cannot match. Small businesses that define the town's character are being replaced by high-end chains and boutiques that cater exclusively to the new money. The resentment in the air is palpable. Locals only isn't just a bumper sticker anymore, it's a battle cry. As one longtime resident put it, we survived harsh winters, droughts, and recessions. But we couldn't survive being discovered. The town I grew up in is dead, it's just a luxury resort wearing its skin. The mountains remain, but the access to them has been sold to the highest bidder. Number 4, Lake Tahoe, California/Nevada. There is perhaps no image more iconic of the American vacation than the crystal-clear blue waters of Lake Tahoe. For generations, this was the ultimate equalizer, a place where families passed down modest cabins from grandfathers to grandchildren. It was a summer camp for the soul and a winter wonderland for the adventurous. It felt permanent, like the granite boulders lining the shore. But in 2026, Lake Tahoe is caught in a climate and insurance pincer that is forcing a historic sell-off. The collapse here is twofold. First, the environmental reality. Years of erratic weather, smoke-filled summers from regional wildfires, and unpredictable snowpacks have made the tourism economy dangerously volatile. Small business owners who rely on a steady flow of visitors are finding themselves bankrupt after just one bad season. Second, and more immediately fatal, is the insurance exodus. Major insurers have effectively redlined the entire basin. Homeowners are opening renewal notices to find premiums ranging from $10,000 to $20,000 a year, or simply non-renewal letters. This has triggered a fire sale in the truest sense. Families who have held properties for 50 years are being forced to sell because the carrying costs have exceeded their retirement incomes. But here is the trap: who buys a home you can't insure? The result is a frozen market and a community in freefall. The Keep Tahoe Blues stickers are fading on the bumpers of cars that are driving away for good. The locals who plowed the snow and staffed the ski lifts are gone, replaced by automated kiosks and a silence that feels heavy. A former cabin owner summed it up with tears in her eyes: "It wasn't the fire that took our home. It was the bill. We were priced out of paradise." The jewel of the Sierra is becoming a ghost town of uninsurable assets. Number 3, Asheville, North Carolina. There was a time when Asheville was whispered about like a secret. It was the San Francisco of the East, but without the price tag. Nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains, it was a quirky, vibrant haven for artists, musicians, and craft beer lovers. It felt safe geographically and economically. For years, it was topped best places to retire and climate haven lists, promised as a sanctuary from the warming world where the water was fresh and the living was easy. But the climate haven myth has been shattered, and by 2026, Asheville is facing a post-disaster exodus. Following the devastating floods of the mid-2020s, the reality of recovery has set in, and it is ugly. The charming river arts districts haven't just been washed away, they've been priced out of existence by insurance adjusters. We are seeing a town where the cost of flood insurance, if you can even get it, has risen by 500%, effectively redlining the historic districts that made the town famous. The mechanism of collapse here is catastrophe gentrification. When the waters receded, the speculators moved in. They bought up damaged working-class homes for pennies on the dollar, flipping them into high-end, flood-proof bunkers for the wealthy. Meanwhile, the service industry is suffocating. The roads are fixed, but the people who drove on them to work at the breweries and galleries are gone, displaced to mobile homes 3 counties away. The vibe is still marketed, but the artists who created it have been evicted by the cost of resilience. A local musician who spent 20 years in the River Arts District shared the bitter truth: they call it rebuilding. I call it replacement. The floods took our studios, but the developers took our city. It's just a playground for people who can afford to lose a house now. Number 2, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Coeur d'Alene was once the hidden gem of the Pacific Northwest. A stunning lake town surrounded by deep forests, it offered a quality of life that was the envy of the region. It was quiet, safe, and fiercely independent. For a long time, it was a place where people went to disappear into nature, enjoying the low cost of living and a slow, friendly pace where politics was something you discussed politely at the barber shop, not a defining line of warfare. Fast forward to 2026, and Coeur d'Alene is buckling under the weight of its own ideological popularity. It has become the epicenter of the American Redoubt movement, attracting tens of thousands of political migrants fleeing blue states. This rapid influx has caused an infrastructure meltdown. The roads are gridlocked, the schools are battlegrounds, and the housing market has crashed after a speculative bubble burst. The town is angry. The tension between old-timers and the aggressive new arrivals has shattered the community spirit. The root cause is ideological migration colliding with economic reality. People moved here for freedom, but they brought with them the housing prices of the cities they fled. This created a hyperinflationary housing bubble that has now popped as interest rates settled high. Furthermore, the local economy relied on construction and real estate. As those sectors stall in 2026 due to oversupply, unemployment is spiking. The safe haven has become a trap of underwater mortgages and social friction. A waitress at a downtown diner observed the shift. It used to be that you knew everyone. Now, people come in and they are angry. They are angry at the traffic, angry at the prices, angry that this place isn't the utopia they were promised on YouTube. The vibe has turned dark. It feels less like a community and more like a powder keg waiting for a spark. Number 1, Key West, Florida. This is it. The end of the road, literally. Key West was the ultimate American outlier. It was the conch republic, a place that played by its own rules. For a century, it was the refuge for the weird, the wild, and the free. Hemingway wrote here, pirates docked here, and millions of Americans dreamed of retiring here to watch the sunset from Mallory Square. It was the definition of paradise found. A tropical escape that didn't require a passport, where the worries of the mainland seemed to dissolve in the salt air. But in 2026, Key West stands as the tragic monument to the uninsurable future. This is not just a town in decline, this is a town facing liquidation. The combined forces of rising sea levels, aggressive king tides that flood the streets on sunny days, and an insurance market that has completely abandoned the island have created an economic death spiral. We are witnessing the Great Retreat. Banks are refusing to issue 30-year mortgages on properties that actuarial tables say might not exist in 30 years. The collapse is systemic. The city's infrastructure, sewage, water, and roads is rotting from the saltwater intrusion, and the tax base required to fix it is fleeing. The for sale signs here are different, they are desperate. Longtime locals, the conchs, are selling out not for profit, but for survival, moving north before their equity washes away completely. The tourism economy is sputtering as service workers can no longer find housing within a 2-hour commute of the island. A third-generation fishing boat captain delivered the final verdict while looking out at the marina. The ocean gave us everything. Now it's taking it back. And the banks know it. You can't fight the water, and you certainly can't fight the math. The party is over. The parking lots are empty. The help wanted signs are yellowing in the windows. The locals are packing their trucks. What we have just walked through is not just a list of 10 towns. It is a map of a structural failure in the American experiment. From the mountains of Wyoming to the reefs of Florida, the story is the same. The places we love are being consumed by the very desire to possess them. We are entering 2026, a year where the middle-class escape is officially closed. The combination of unbridled speculation, climate risk, and the total financialization of housing has turned our communities into assets, and assets can be liquidated. This is the silent crisis. It doesn't look like a bomb going off. It looks like your favorite diner closing on a Tuesday and never opening again. It looks like a school bus with no children on it. It looks like a paradise where no one can afford to live. If you are thinking of moving, if you are looking for that perfect small town, look past the brochure. Look at the insurance rates. Look at the job market. Look at the eyes of the locals. Don't get trapped in a dying dream. If this video helped you see the truth behind the scenery, if you want to stay ahead of the economic curve that is reshaping our country, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We don't sell dreams here, we analyze reality. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.